No competition, please. That's what Spain is telling regions within its own country to stop being tax competitive, as the federal government says they're proposing a redistribution effort by those that have more to finance a welfare state that belongs to everyone. This is the direction the Western world is going, and I'm going to share with you exactly how this is working in Spain and how you can avoid it where you live too. All right, so here is from Insider. Headline, Spain is doubling down on taxing the rich with a so-called solidarity tax. It's always solidarity when you're paying, by the way. No solidarity when you need their help. Suddenly you're just, you're 23 skidoo. This will affect 23,000 super wealthy people. What makes you super wealthy? You've got 3 million euros or now under $3 million. So certainly you're not starving. But are you exactly Jeff Bezos? I don't think so at 3 million euros. Around 1 in every 1,000 taxpayers in Spain is going to have to pay a new wealth tax. This is on top of the fact that they already have a wealth tax. Most European countries have realized this thing's a pain, it doesn't work, let's get rid of it. Spain has doubled down. The region of Andalusia is trying to become more tax friendly, and the government of Spain is saying, don't do that. We don't want competition. So now, on top of an additional, the basic wealth tax, they're going to have an additional wealth tax. 1 in every 1,000 taxpayers is going to pay it. Of course, they always tell you how much money it's going to bring in, as if ripping people off for more of their money is somehow justified if it brings in the right amount. And it also, of course, this is as Spain is unveiling tax cuts for small businesses, the unemployed, the typical thing. But guess what? If you have 3 million euros, you could very well run a small business. I mean, you run a business that does 500,000 euros a year in profit. You're already paying huge income tax. You're paying a wealth tax. And now if your business or other assets can be valued, you're paying a solidarity tax because you haven't done enough for the country. You haven't done enough versus the person who's paying 1,000 euros a year. You haven't done enough with your jobs. You haven't done enough with fighting past, what is it they say in Spain? A job is something that you have, not something that you do. Or maybe it's backwards. I mean, you've pushed through everything to give them more than half of your money, and you're still not in solidarity with them. And so basically, Spain is implementing this new tax. If you have over 10 million, it's going to be 3.5% extra. And so, yes, interest rates are starting to come back up, but how are you going to invest your capital, especially if your capital is in something like a business, which is static, and it's just a value sitting there, or if you're holding other assets that just sit there, if it's gold, if it's art, whatever, you're going to have to pay 3.5% if you're over 10 million. Rates are lower if you're in the 3 to 10 million bracket. But basically they're saying, hey, as long as it only affects 1 in 1,000 people, for now, it's okay. It's going to bring in 1.5 billion euros. By the way, this is from the same group of people. As I'm reading all these numbers, 1.5 billion euros is now less than $1.5 billion. From the same people that screwed up the more than 20-year track record of the euro being more valuable than the dollar, they've got a new idea, and it's to tax you at the top. 1.7% from 3 to 5 million euros, 2.1% between 5 and 10 million, 3.5% on more than that 10 million euros. They said it's a temporary tax, of course, for 2023 and 2024. After it will be reviewed to see whether to keep the tax. Let me guess. Will they high tax cesspool? Will they vote to keep the tax? Of course they're going to vote to keep the tax. It's here forever. Just plan on it. And so when I talk to guys, so they're like, hey, listen, Andrew, I can move to one country. My wife says she'll move to Spain because she loves the sangria. Don't move to Spain. Why are you moving to Spain? Oh, because I heard the government's not very effective at collecting taxes. They're very effective at collecting taxes. They're not very effective at giving you the money. That's why they need to take over half of your income, plus have 2 wealth taxes, plus yell at states in their own country which want to be a little bit more tax friendly, hardly Dubai. Like, really? They have to do all that. They still can't give people money. They still can't manage the money. So do you think they're going to be any better? Of course not. The solidarity tax was unveiled as a package of fiscal measures that was designed to make Spain's tax system fairer. I tell you what, how about you just hang the the bodies of people who have more than 10 million years, and people can just take out the parts. People are going to start selling their organs. Remember, that would be like, at what point is it fair? At what point is it enough? Inflation exceeded 10% in Spain for 3 consecutive months. And I like how that's in the article, by the way, about how they're imposing a wealth tax, as if it's your fault. As if it's your fault that they did such a terrible job managing the economy. They handed out money like candy during the pandemic. They don't know how to run a currency. They've done a terrible job managing everything. But if only we give them some more money, we'll have solidarity. It's the ultimate shaming technique. You want to say it's not fair to not pay taxes. I say, listen, if you want to go to Dubai, why shouldn't you be able to play by Dubai's rules? You want to go to the Caymans, you want to go to Vanuatu. Listen, other countries can certainly lure people. We live in a competitive market system. If people want to leave, that's fine. But you can disagree with that. You have to give me that when we're blaming rich people for the fact that the government screwed up the economy and now the rich people have to pay, and they're not even that rich. I mean, 3 million euros, you're doing well, but you're not exactly like rolling in Scrooge McDuck's money vault at 3 million euros. Of course, they announced a cut in income tax, basically for people who aren't paying any income tax to begin with, if you make less than 21,000 euros. And that will save 1.88 billion euros. So I guess they're bringing in 1.5 billion. They're spending 1.8 billion. You can see why these people are not doing a good job of running your economy. I don't think the self-employed people in Spain are going to get much out of this. The government said it would also lower the tax rate on sales tax rate on feminine hygiene products and condoms and contraceptives from 10 to 4%. So there you go. You're getting a good deal right there. They have no intention to change food taxes. So that's what they are doing in Spain. Another article where they're taxing the top 1% to fight inflation. Again, why is it if you run a business that brings in a couple hundred grand a year and it's worth 3 million, how are you responsible for inflation? You're not the founder of Zara. You're just a guy running a business selling stuff on Amazon. I mean, my goodness. But here's from Scoop. Scoop World in New Zealand says Spain's leftist government has announced a wealth tax from 2023. They're going to finance inflation, set to last for 2 years. LOL. Spain wants to take extraordinary steps not to improve their economic standing, not to stop themselves from falling in the economic rankings, not to stop their economy from no longer being a has-been that peaked 200 years ago. But their new extraordinary steps are to tax the quote-unquote great assets in the country, says Tax Minister Maria Jesus Montero. After all, this would be a way to finance the aid that the middle class and workers so desperately need in times of crisis. Maybe the government should figure out how to stop wasting their money. And then they wouldn't need to take your money after you've been the one creating jobs, you've been the one keeping the middle class employed. When we talk about rich people, we're talking about millionaires, she said, which they've done such a great job devaluing their currency and growing inflation that a millionaire really doesn't mean much anymore. But here's the headline from Scoop. Spain's government wants to stop tax competition in the country because this announcement of a new wealth tax, a second wealth tax, comes just days after Andalusia's regional government decided to abolish wealth tax for homeowners with global assets of more than 700,000 euros in a bid to attract higher earners to the southern region. So Madrid has been a little bit friendlier than this historically in terms of Spain. Most of Spain has these kind of wealth taxes built in. But now that Andalusia says, hey, let's ease up on the wealth tax because we want some people to come and live in our state. The same way that Florida, for example, has no state income tax in the United States, or certain places might have better conditions, right? Alberta and Canada. That sparked a debate in Spain. They'll tell you they're a free market system. Europe will say we believe in free markets. But when one of the states says, hey, you know what, we'd like to put our hat out there, let's bring in some people to come and live in our state. And beautiful part of Spain, why not, right? But it's so terribly mismanaged. The taxes are so crazy. You can find whatever Andalusia has to offer somewhere else. But all right, hey, listen, rather than making them pay, 52% tax, now they'll pay 50.5% tax. Oh, they were up in arms about that. That sparked a debate in Spain about whether it was fair for some regions to offer better tax conditions than others and still demand an equal piece of the budget. Montero, the tax minister, has accused regions such as Madrid, which has long been the lowest tax part of Spain, in engaging in unfair tax competition, which is known as fiscal dumping. It's kind of interesting, fiscal dumping. So basically, why would you want to go and live in a country like Spain? What makes you think there's any competition at all? I've been to Spain. I was in Barcelona for New Year's, and I like Barcelona, but is there really a lot of competition? I mean, you go to a restaurant and half the time they're throwing things at you. Why? Because they don't have an attitude of competition. You don't have to be competitive. So forget you're willing to pay the income tax. You're willing to pay 50 cents on the dollar and more. But now you're in a culture where you don't even have the service. You don't even have competition. There's no spirit of competition. And what I've said for years is culture matters. Now, you can pick and choose some aspects of culture. Sometimes you can live in a country and you can kind of float above the politics, float above the culture. But if you've got a culture where everywhere you go is just against competition, why shouldn't a state be able to attract people who want to live there by offering some incentives? That's how it works. It's not like, again, they're turning themselves into Dubai. You're still paying a bloody fortune. But that speaks to what Spain is all about. And so when I talk about why I wouldn't invest in Spain, why I wouldn't live in Spain, why I will visit Spain for a very limited period of time to ensure they never have a case to tax me there, this is why. A second wealth tax on top of crazy high income taxes, on top of a culture where it's just not competitive. I spent a couple weeks in Spain once. I literally couldn't get a glass of wine because the restaurant didn't pay their suppliers. You think that's about competition? You think they know anything about competition? They don't. It's a crazy new wealth tax, and it's why you need to make sure that if you're a citizen of Spain, if you're a citizen of an equally bankrupt country somewhere in the world, you want to have an escape plan. Leave and live somewhere else as soon as you can to lower your taxes. Be away from this madness, because the next thing is retroactive taxes. And make sure you have a second passport to where when they get really squirrely, you have options.